Another story that's really interesting, Scott, I noticed Nvidia stock, they were talking about it here on Aspen. It's been on a roller coaster this week. Shares are headed back up after multiple days of decline, which cost the company its title as the world's most valuable company. Nvidia shares are still up over 160% since January. What do you think about this? I think a lot of people thought this was coming. You talked about this a lot. Go ahead.
Yeah, but since it's rebounded 7%, it's not. Its ups and downs aren't that interesting. What's more interesting is that when it loses 13% over the course of 3 days, it basically loses the value of MasterCard. I mean, if you look at the blast zone or ground zero of essentially $2 trillion in incremental value creation over the last 6 or 12 months, the knock-on effects are so dramatic. If this company could go down 80%, and all of a sudden the NASDAQ and the S&P wouldn't be keeping pace with inflation. One company is now sort of as goes. I mean, it used to be the Magnificent Seven. Now it's the Magnificent One. It's the singular samurai, right, Nvidia. Right. So Nvidia has now become the tail that's wagging the dog of almost everything. And I'm fascinated by this thing because people just can't imagine the kind of value creation here and what it means when it becomes so huge that in this volatile, it is, the NASDAQ is effectively the tone for the American economy right now is going to be directly and indirectly dictated by the volatility of Nvidia. Even, for example, 30,000 employees, 3 trillion plus market cap. So you're talking about $100 million per person. I worked my ass off, got so lucky with L2, sold it for $160 million after executing almost what I felt like was perfectly, having just an incredibly lucky, just finally I did something and I got all the moons lined up. $160 million, 80 people, so that's $2 million per employee. They've generated somewhere between 100 and 130 million per employee. And I would bet of those 30,000, 10,000 woke up last week and said, I'm worth between 10 and $50 million.
Right.
What does that do to San Francisco real estate prices when all of a sudden, what do you do when you're 29
It already
or 34?
is affected. You know that. We talked about
is that.
Right? Luxury housing is way up. I mean, a lot of the tech companies, and especially and OpenAI, everybody coming back, et cetera, et cetera.
But when you have 10,000 people, probably in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, that all of a sudden have $10 million in incremental wealth, you got to think 2/3 of them are thinking, we're either going to buy a nice home or a better home. I mean, we're either going to buy our first home or upgrade. What does that do to housing stock? I mean, and then what happens if this thing goes down 80%? Nvidia could decide the presidential election. If the market is off 2% instead of up 14%, that is a huge talking point for the Republicans. Nvidia has become, as Nvidia goes, so goes the market and the perception of the American economy.
So is it a buy now, Scott, for people who are like, you still can't do it?
This is literally...
It's a meme stock in a weird way.
I tell you, I track everything. I get about 60 emails a day from strangers. And the number one question I get is regarding young men, either moms looking for advice or young men themselves. The number two is it too late to buy Nvidia? People, and what I tell them is, look, I don't know. I can paint a scenario where it doubles. I can see it getting cut by 50%, if not 80%. So this is what you do, in my view. You buy SPY, you buy an index fund, because if you buy an index fund, every dollar that goes into, you're buying 24 cents on the dollar goes to the Magnificent Seven. So if those companies continue to kill it, you participate. But if the other 493 stocks have their day in the sun and those stocks that get cut in half, you're still okay. So you take some upside off the table, but you save your mental health. You know you're participating. Yeah. And the thing about these indexes that's so amazing is they are a screening mechanism for the best companies. So whatchamacallit, who gets kicked out? Kodak gets kicked out, Salesforce gets brought in. Right? So it's the best companies in the world you're investing in, and they do the job of balancing and diversifying for you. So anyway, do you want to invest in Nvidia thoughtfully? You don't need to know whether it's going to go up or down. Buy an index fund.
Just buy an index fund. Good idea.